Okay. Call to order our Beechwood Board of Education February 10th meeting. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Lori, would you like to do roll call?
Yeah, Mrs. Berger.
Here.
Mr. Burns.
Here.
Mr. Hood.
Here.
Mrs. Sleet.
Here.
Mrs. Wood.
Here. Okay. See any
Those signatures.
No? Okay. All right, then we'll already head to our discussion and action agenda. First motion is the to approve the school calendar. Take a motion. That's right, we already.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
School calendar?
Yes.
I'm still trying to get there.
Yep, that's okay.
I'm pretty, God, there it is. Wait a minute.
1 second.
Print it.
Okay. All right. Anything you want to add about the school calendar?
No, I think just to pass along publicly, you all have requested that we put that in every newsletter.
Yes.
From now to the end of the year.
The change.
Let's just make sure that we get that change in from the draft, last year's draft to this year's approval on fall break, highlighted in our newsletters.
Was there any other major change on that I don't remember from last month? Okay, so just the fall break? Yeah. Okay.
Quick comment to the calendar process, and I don't know if this goes to you, Dr. Stacy, or if it goes to Mr. Kaiser with the calendar committee. I did hear from a couple people, staff and parents, that were wondering if it'd be possible for us to shift when the calendar committee reviews and drafts the calendar for the following year. And I don't live my life this way. I could never plan 18 months out, but I guess other people do. And so it is just something I've heard from a few different people that they think it'd be really nice if before the current school year kicks off, the calendar for the following year is set. So I don't know if there's any basis about when this gets reviewed or when it gets done, or if that's fluid. So I just thought I'd pass along that feedback that some people have expressed. It'd be nice if when we kick off August for next year, 25-26, that 26-27 has already been reviewed.
I think the way that you all would have to do that is the board would have to go ahead and approve the two, like we've done in the past.
Yeah, we've done it in the past, the 2 years ahead,
Okay.
but you still can't, there's something in the statute that says you cannot approve it. Yeah, it can only be a draft until, what time? When's the earliest it can be voted
I
on?
think the key for me is like we've always had, is that consistent calendar. And if we're gonna go to the first full week in October, then we just need to stay consistent with that. But I don't disagree. I don't live my life, of course, I can only travel really 3 weeks out of the year. But I know some people book way in advance, so I don't necessarily disagree with that.
In theory, could the calendar committee start this spring looking at 26-27 to where that maybe that's something we could go ahead and approve prior to the start of next school year? I don't know how the calendar committee operates.
In theory, I think it would go back to, and I would double check that, but I think in theory, you can only do the calendar for the next year. You could do a draft with the understanding, input from the calendar committee with the understanding that we're going to stay consistent, and that draft is going to become, the only one you can't predict is on the election year with new board members and how they might feel, but I think for the most part, you could do that.
Have we done 3 drafts?
did 3
Yeah, I think we have done that before, where we've done 3, but still, I don't, what is the, Justin, do you happen to know? On the calendar, there was something, statute, Jeremy? January, is that the earliest?
January 1, the first meeting in January.
I knew there was an issue as to why we couldn't do it before.
For the coming year?
Yeah, for the
Yes.
coming, yeah.
So the earliest, you can do drafts of several years, but then
Okay.
each year.
So other
January.
districts that have future years out right now, those are technically drafts because you can't vote
correct.
to make them official until the
That is-
January preceding that school year.
Correct.
Right, that's correct. Now,
Yeah.
I can just say what an old mentor told me a long time ago that I've always found to hold true. The best thing you can do with the calendar is make it not an issue. The only way to make it not an issue is to keep consistent. This is the general time. The 3rd Thursday in August is the start of school. The Friday before Memorial Day is graduation. The first full week of October is fall break. All right, the first days of April or spring break. If you can do that and figure out what is best, then you can basically always know when those breaks are going to be 4 or 5 years down the road. But it's just whether or not we can all agree that this is the calendar we want, and if that's the case, then we can go back to the calendar committee and make those draft.
And maybe someday I'll be organized enough that my family can plan that far in advance. But we are not there yet. I believe in passing along the feedback I was given, and I did hear from a couple people saying that would be nice.
Yeah, well, we used to only do 1 year, and then we did the draft thing, and that seemed to be better for people. But I did remember that there was something, the reason why we didn't, because I always thought, 2 years in advance, that would be good, but there's a,
Change makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, that's just why I was worried this time. All right, that's all I
Okay.
had.
And that's why I did request Dr. Stacy put in all the newsletters to have information out every week so everybody knows that there was a change, because that could be a problem.
So are we agreeing that they're gonna work on drafts for next year, or?
So they'll need the next 2 years now. This year is now, we have one,
We can do that.
yeah.
All right, we'll do it.
Calendar committee this spring to approve the 26, 27 draft.
And 27, 28.
And next January, we approve the 26, 27. The following spring, 27, 28, we approve the following January. So we're shifting the time of year in which the calendar should be approved to spring. Each year ahead.
But you're only getting, I mean.
You can't
let's just
vote
be-
on it until,
Yeah, because if first reading was in January and second reading was in February, that's not really, that's different than
right.
what we're doing right now, right? The whole key is to have the calendar committee agree and get feedback on what is the calendar we're gonna stick with, you know.
So this spring, say April,
Yes,
we as a committee get together.
yes.
You guys aren't going to approve that draft until next January.
No, what we would bring it, I think they're asking to bring a draft back and go ahead and publish that draft, if everybody agreed on it. Is that what I'm understanding?
Then you don't vote till January.
But
No,
it
we
could
can't
be
vote.
vote
Yeah.
until January.
Yeah,
Hey, this is a draft, this is what we're looking at for 26, 27.
right,
Not be officially approved until January of 27.
yeah.
By law.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The more
Yep.
information, the better, I think, that with that.
We're going forward from here on, whatever calendar committee shifts from the fall.
To the spring.
Yes.
And we can still do 2 years out, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
that's great.
But just in draft.
My advice
Yeah.
is just, we really need to hit with the committee that whatever they recommend and whatever we approve, that's going to be consistent over time. That would be my only add. Because if we start changing it back and forth,
Yep.
then
That's,
issues happen. All right.
Any other questions?
Ready?
Okay.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Wu? Yes.
Okay, motion carries. On to our next item is the creation of the Charitable Funds Committee. Take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the creation of a charitable funds committee.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, following the creation policy, committee policy, we have to state the purpose of the committee, and the purpose of the committee is the Charitable Funds Committee will oversee the use of the Horizon funds, review any donation of over $1,000 directly to Beechwood schools, and annually review all donations from any agency or persons to any Beechwood school organization. The committee will serve a one-year term, January 1 to December 31. The board will receive a biannual report from the committee on the Horizon funds and the annual report on all of the donations as stated. And the committee will be comprised of 2 board members, the superintendent, board treasurer, and the district curriculum lead. Now, that checks all the boxes on the policy. The main reason is there are still funds in that Horizon Capital Campaign Fund. And right now, Christy and I have the sole oversight of said funds. Christy and I do not want to have sole oversight of those funds. Therefore, this committee would be the committee that principals, anybody would submit a request for use of funds, and that committee would basically approve or deny.
Since funds are still coming in, how long do we anticipate this? Are we going to keep it open indefinitely, or what?
It would be my recommendation to keep it open indefinitely. I think it's a great opportunity for people who want to give, and we've heard
Right.
many times on people who like to give. and look for options to give to be able to, to donate to the Horizon Fund to help support our programming.
Okay.
And Dr. Stacy, is
Yes.
this just for the Horizon funds, or it's any charitable contribution that's made to the
So,
school?
like I said, the purpose was mainly because Chrissy and I do not feel like, and I think you all would agree, that the superintendent especially does not need to have oversight of those funds directly. But we also think it's a really great idea for the board to review and see. You would not approve a donation to the boosters or an alumni approval to whatever. But it's a great opportunity to recognize and see what donations are coming in. And right now, we don't have an annual report that comes to you. So we thought that would be a great idea. And it would give us an opportunity to highlight the different organizations, PTSA, the boosters, that do support the institution.
That's great.
Any other questions?
All right, Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Sleet?
Yes.
Mrs. Wood?
Yes.
How do we go about picking the committee?
At the next.
Yeah, we were going to go over committees because there's another committee we want to add as well. So we thought we would go and look at board members and then I think they'll discuss as far as what admin and other people are on there. So probably by next meeting, maybe.
So I think Jeannie has a list of about 7 different committees that she would like to update. So that is between.
Not add, no, we did update most of them anyway,
Yeah.
because they were very outdated, and the people on them were outdated, and some people didn't even know they were on the committees, so.
So we'll just say before next meeting, she's
Yeah.
going to get with you guys on.
And we're just
those
gonna add
committees
10 more,
as
so
chair.
everybody has a meeting to go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're not adding it in now.
All
Okay.
right. Any other questions? So by next board member meeting, we'll do that, and then
Yes.
that way we can schedule that first meeting and move forward. All
Okay.
right, anything else?
All right, on to our next item, the consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve.
Do
the
you have
con-
to, you have to vote?
We already voted.
Oh, you
didn't we?
voted?
We did. Yeah.
Oh,
Brad
wow.
just asked a question
Oh.
afterward.
He didn't have his espresso today.
I know, he's not quite.
Maybe I haven't had these.
Yeah.
On me.
No, he's talking about last meeting
All
after
right,
that.
well, I'd put a check mark, all right, sorry.
No. Okay, so on to the next item, the consent agenda. We'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Motion to approve.
Go ahead.
You second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, a couple of things. There are a lot of use of facilities. We have not started opening the facility up. These are staff members who have requested and filled out forms to use the facilities and have insurance on file. So along with PTSA for Santa Fest, they always do a great job, I have to say, with the band of putting in early use of facilities. Field trips, quite a few, again on this one. Band, about every third year, takes a trip to Disney World. Honor band to UK, state choir, forensics trips for the upcoming season, track team to Danville. I think that's the location of the indoor meet, but I'm not sure. And the middle school all-state state band to Madisonville. Pay applications for this round on Phase B. Your leave without pay. 2 others that are not typical. The high school is wanting to accept funds from the Joe Burrow Foundation to help support a presentation on mental health. And both schools, the elementary and the high school, are asking to receive funds through the Arts and Mind Grant, which we've had this year, and that would continue to next year. That would help for arts programming at both schools. Any specific questions?
No, just a lot on there. So I believe I asked this question, but I just want to, the use of facilities, that is only scheduled after all of our groups get what they need on the calendar, and that can be adjusted accordingly.
Yes, Sunday afternoons, Obviously, anybody, any of our varsity teams.
If like there's a
softball or
tournament
baseball,
or what, yeah,
Yeah, they
okay.
can get
yes,
first right of
they could,
refusal.
they would bump, they would have first priority over any
Is there a
outside agency.
amount of time they have to give them that notice
Mm-mm.
if they're getting bumped? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
They are
Any
not
other
paying to rent the facility, so they know they are at even a moment's notice.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Anybody?
And that would be any, not just varsity, that would be any of our school programs would have first pick.
Okay.
Ready?
I think we are now ready. Yeah.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooten?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. On to superintendent report. Dr. Stacy, you have anything?
Chris, do you have anything to on finance?
I mean, no, I mean, I think,
Okay.
like I said,
We do need to remember that even though it's February, we are approaching the budget, so we do need to continue having those conversations. We do have KSBA coming up, so I think all of you have your arrangements. If you need anything specifically, Ms. Reed will take care of you on that. I had several construction meetings over the last couple of days. We do have several issues that are outstanding. March the 20th is still our target date for everything this direction without punch list. The auditorium is the main issue, right, as we are aware of. Locker rooms should be open for district tournament. I will say 90%. They will be absolutely functional, but I don't know. I don't think we'll have the TVs mounted or the light, the lit up pole up in the ceiling or some of the touches, but we'll get those finished
Showers
up.
work?
Concession?
Restrooms work, concession
That's all they
stand,
need.
all but the ceiling. They were gonna drop the pads in the other day, but Boosters had a lot of drinks in the way, so they're gonna clear those out. Those will drop this week. Concession stand will be open. It looks good. It's nothing way over the top, but it is very much nicer than it has been, and everything can lock. So I think that was one of their main requests. As far as the punch list, I do foresee that some of that will run all the way into the end of the calendar, the school year. And you know, we've met with Codell, having a meeting next week with Joe Hayes and Codell on estimating prices for the next BG1. So as we're finishing up the one, we're going to head and having discussions on the next. That will come back to you guys for final approval.
Does the next BG1, and I don't recall, it's been a while since I've seen it, have a refinishing of, or resurfacing of this track around?
It does not. And the reason why it does not is I've had having two different companies come look at. Number one, a respray, and number two, an estimate on a redo. I don't know. I would like to know the cost differential, but a spray is obviously just going to be a limited time fix. Every time a cleat runs over it, every time you know, it's hit,
Right.
it's just going to chip because we're spraying over old asphalt.
So it needs to be stripped and
It-
redone?
It really should be dug out with a new surface put down. But my gut is, with the continued increase in cost, you're not going to be able to afford everything that you're going to want to do. And that's not going to be an easy decision on what you keep on and what you take off. But there
And
are
when will
spaces
those-
on it that does need to be fixed.
When will the quotes be back?
We're meeting next week. They've already started some renderings and some basic sketches. I would say we'll know quotes within 3 weeks of the meeting. So that's next week. I think we could easily say, you know, by the March, right at the March meeting, we would have quotes to discuss.
Okay. An electrical update?
Electrical updates. We filed paperwork, and we're into little situation, and we'll continue to see how that brews. If any of you want specific details, I'll be more than happy to catch you up on individual conversations.
Okay.
I do not know the outcome of
But we're still working towards a 320 completion. Okay.
yes.
Right. Anything else?
I don't think so. I know we need to go ahead, and I know you all have already approved a BG1. I just think it's very difficult to start a phase 4 when there's pieces of every phase that need to be addressed. The moment that the locker rooms get completely off the to-do list and the stadium entrance get completely off the to-do list, I think we'll be ready to go. My projection is that I'll ask you to approve in May the final estimates for the next phase, which means when I bring you stuff in March, you need to start having the conversations of what's going to be on the final approval list.
Back to the track for a second. Do our track teams practice here on the track? Okay. I didn't know if that's where they do it or if they do it elsewhere.
They run several different places, but they do run here. Sometimes they run on the field, sometimes they run on the track.
All right.
Yeah. It's hard when you have two 90-degree angles to
Yeah.
stay on the track. And we sprayed a really good surface down, much better than what was there, because the asphalt's not great for them. Like I said, you're going to be limited to about 5 years before you're going to start to see some problems.
I was just curious if it's student use or mostly community use. It sounds like kids are using it.
It is
there's a lot
lot
of use
on
out there.
both sides.
All right.
A lot on both sides. And I'll go ahead and tell you, in my opinion, we really have to start looking at the locker rooms as we're adding. We have so many programs right now, and they're all using, that upstairs portion of the field house, and it makes it extremely difficult. Soccer's out in the barn. There's several things, and I love the addition, and this is by far the core with our academic servicing and the front building, by far the most important. But at the same time, there's still some really big issues to try to tackle with what's next. And what scares me most is what I said earlier. You're going to make some entity upset because I don't think we can do everything. So a great conversation to have over the next few months. That's all I have. I'll keep you updated. March 20th timeline. Spring break is going to be another critical time for punch list because obviously kids are out and we can really hit it hard with big crews.
Are they working at night right now? or-
Working second shift, and then we have some workers, and we approve more workers during the day today at today's meeting, because that's been the biggest issue for a lot of people doing touch-ups, is that it costs more to run a second shift crew,
Right.
and some of them are getting down where their monetary benefit of this project is not what they anticipated. So we're definitely getting some pushback. And I'm reminded every day that if we did this building tomorrow, it would be about $20 million more than we got it for. I don't know if that's it, but that's what they preach. So it's a dance. It's a dance, and we really only have the one vendor that is really problematic, and a couple of items that have been very difficult to get. And I swear every time there's a natural disaster, and God forbid that any more happen, but it seems to be right on top of a place that we're getting equipment from. So they're saying a lot of the hardware is coming out of the Western North Carolina area. So it's a dance. That's all I have, other than senior night for girls is tonight, so we're going to bounce down there after meeting. And other than that, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay. We'll go on to making the agenda part of the official board minutes. We'll take a motion. So moved.
I will second.
Okay. Mrs. Reed?
Mrs. Berger?
Yes?
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Mrs. Wood?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Now, I think
Mom's
Dr.
coming back
Stacy
to
got a little bit ahead of us on the other business, but it's clearly senior night tonight. That's like right now? Yeah. Anybody else have anything to add that's going on? No? Okay, I guess we'll take a motion to adjourn. Brady, keep looking at me.
I'm good at that.
That was fast.